Who gives this woman in holy matrimony? Thank you. Now please a nice kiss for Evert. And Karl would like to show you some respect. You'd like respect, don't you? Yes? Okay. Now. Please everybody be seated while I position the wedding party. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Reverend Tom Shire, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Karl and Evert to the celebration of their love in this ceremony of holy matrimony. We come here today from different cultural backgrounds and faith traditions, but whatever background or tradition we come from, there are certain things that are always true about weddings. They are a celebration of life and love and family, God's three greatest gifts. There are days of happiness and celebration, and there are days of ancient and very beautiful traditions. And most of all, if we are people of faith, it is a sacred day, as a man and a woman pronounce their vows, not only before their families and friends and all the people they love, but before God. Fathers, you may be seated now, if you wish. Thank you. So, just before we begin, I want to point out just a few things about weddings. Now, weddings, by the way, have the oldest traditions in the world, unbroken traditions. And whether we're from the Philippines or Spain or England or Canada, our traditions are the same. They are based on the courts and castles of medieval Europe. And in addition to that, we're going to have some very beautiful, very sacred traditions of the Filipino people, which came via the Spanish and their inheritance of Catholicism. So I'd like to begin. It all begins with you, Evert. You're the queen. You like the sound of that? Absolutely, of course. Now you see, this is why the bride always has a beautiful, long, queenly gown. She is the queen of the wedding, and the groom is the king. And by tradition, everywhere throughout the world, they are king and queen for the day, as the luckiest people on earth. And that's why we speak of the bride's luck, because everything the bride has, and the groom too, is lucky on their wedding day. Now, because you are a queen, Evert, you have ladies in waiting, ladies of the court. You are royal ladies, noble, rich, beautiful. These are all good things, eh? And the young ladies, you would have been princesses of the court. Did you know that? And your job was, when you were young, to attend royal weddings and to be princesses. And your flowers, by tradition, have special wishing power for the bride. Did you know that? Yes. And the men, by tradition, are always on the left. And this is because they were originally heavily armed bodyguards. In the Spanish tradition, caballeros, they were knights in the British tradition. And they were there especially for you, Evert. They were sworn by their very lives to defend you, the ring, and the dowry. Not you, Karl. Sorry. You're not important enough. So, the men were here as armed guards. And so we have a setup of a royal court. And one last comment is a beautiful tradition of flowers. Now, Evert, you have the beautiful white roses. And roses always mean love. You see, your bouquet is speaking to Karl. So Karl, Evert is saying in her bouquet that she loves you, because a rose is a love flower. But the color white means my love is pure and true and unselfish. I will give to you without expecting in return. It's a very, very beautiful meaning. And finally, I'd like to speak about the boutonnieres. And the men wear boutonnieres, and this too is a very beautiful tradition. It comes from the courts of medieval Europe. And when a knight wanted to win the hand of a lady, the way he showed his interest was he wore a flower representing his lady's colors. So Evert, Karl is wearing a boutonniere that is a very beautiful romantic tradition. It says to you, you would have understood it right away. It says, Evert, I'd like you to be my lady, and I would like to be your man. Isn't that romantic? It is. So, also in addition to that, I'm going to mention, and we'll explain as we go, we also have some beautiful spiritual traditions. These will include wedding sponsors, I will explain, the lighting of candles, the use of veils and cords, and also of gold coins known as the aray. And I will explain, these are beautiful Filipino traditions that have come through the Spanish influence. So, as we begin now, as you know, if you are Catholic, you'll consider marriage a sacrament. And you know that two things, that there cannot be a sacrament unless there is free and willing consent, and that is why the bride and groom will declare they come here freely and willingly. But secondly, as you know, if you're Catholic in your background, whatever sacrament you have sponsors. Now, we normally in Canada don't have sponsors for weddings. We have sponsors for baptism, for confirmation. But in the Filipino traditions, there are wedding sponsors, and you are known as ninongs and ninangs. And you have a very special duty. You are sworn before God to be good examples to the bride and groom, to encourage them in their marriage, and to pray for them throughout their married lives together. And so as we begin this ceremony, we begin with a question to the sponsors, the ninongs and ninangs. It is a traditional question, and really it is asking you to vow or to pledge something. You, the sponsors of Evert and Karl, have brought them forward today to declare their vows before God in the sacrament and covenant of holy matrimony. Do you, therefore, promise to do everything in your power to support them through prayer, example, and encouragement to live out the commitment of Christian matrimony?
We do.
Nice and loud.
We do.
We do.
You have to sound convincing.
We have to say that we do.
And so, as we begin with a classical and very beautiful symbol. In the Filipino tradition, as it is indeed in many traditions, and you probably have seen this also in a wedding mass, there is the lighting of candles. Now, candles always have very special meanings. In general, they mean the light of God, Jesus Christ, the light of the world. It means something sacred is going to happen. It means we are about to pray. And in a wedding, the candles also represent you, Karl Evert. And the two end candles represent you as individuals, and the middle candle, which the mothers will light, means the merging of you two as individuals into a relationship, into a husband and wife. And the symbolism, as you know, is let the two become one, and what God has joined together, let no one put asunder. So I'd now like to ask the mothers, Olivia, Thelma, and Linda, please to come forward and to light the symbolic candles.